Edmund Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 1, Episode 4, and my thoughts on this episode. I'm kind of disappointed. I feel like this episode was a filler episode. It did move the story forward a little bit. I did like the backstory on some of the characters, and I liked the flashbacks to that backstory. But unfortunately, most of this episode was filler. And that is something I hate about TV series, or at least TV shows. Not everything was bad in this episode. Again, I did like finding out more about the relationship between two characters. I did like that. But we're kind of moving into the problems of the films when they focus too much on the human characters and not enough on the creature character, which in this episode it kind of did look like, and it did happen. We didn't focus enough on the creature, we didn't focus enough on how to deal with it, we only focused on one character and their problems, which unfortunately for me is a bit of a problem. Now listen, Kurt Russell, he's great. Okay, you can see he's having fun. I enjoy his acting. But in this episode, in certain parts, it did feel like he was kind of phoning it in. It did. As for the other actors and actresses, they were okay. I got no problems with them. But it was boring at parts, where you could have had a kind of fight scene or a monster view scene. We just got a scene of somebody walking. That was what most of this episode was about. Walking, talking, relationship problems, going back in time a little bit to know how two people met each other. Again, I'm not saying it's a terrible episode. I'm just saying you didn't need to have 90% or at least 50% focus on a relationship. It should have been 20% focused on that relationship, 20% of them talking about the situation, and 60% focused on the creature. That's what should have happened in this episode. And Monarch was barely in this episode. You get two scenes with them, but that's about it. Again, I'm not saying the show's shit. I'm not saying you should just give up on it. It wasn't woke. It was just a filler episode. And I hate filler episodes because it doesn't make sense to me. Why you'd bother with a filler episode when you could just give me a proper episode. That's all I ask. But anyway, it is disappointing. Okay, I've been loving this show so far, and we get to this. It's annoying because you know they can do better than this. I mean, we've seen them do better than this. But again, not giving up on the show. It's not terrible. The episode itself was fine. Just, again, kind of need them to kind of speed some stuff up and focus more on the important things. But what would I give this episode out of 10? Oh, it's a hard one. I don't think it's terrible, but it's definitely not great. So, to be fair, I'm going to leave it at a 5. 5.5 to be fair. So 5.5 out of 10. I think that's fair. Sorry. Yeah, so let's go to spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. This is going to be a very quick one because, again, not really much happened. So the episode starts off 2015 in Ohio, I think is what it said, where we see this woman sunbathing. Then she starts receiving a signal, tries to get through to her bosses at Monarch to reach the head of Monarch, but she gets left on hold. We then go back to the mountain where the group is, and if you remember last week, we left them fighting off a large blue dragon ice monster. Now in this scene, the monster is kind of bearing down on them, going to prepare to kill them. And Kento falls over, manages to find a flare, fires off the flare, but the flare doesn't go long enough to distract the creature long enough. But apparently they're still able to outrun this creature that has been shown to run fast. So I didn't really like that in this episode. I mean, it is pretty obvious the distraction didn't work. Kento's flare didn't go further enough to distract it. So how did you get away? But in this episode, apparently they were able to find a cave. They were able to stay in there for a little bit, away from the creature. The creature then loses track of them, but unfortunately, in the cave, May slips into some broken ice, and then she slips into the water underneath, and she unfortunately gets her legs soaking wet with cold water. And if you've ever been in the mountains or had to do work up there, getting that sort of injury or accident can sometimes be a death sentence because of hypothermia, the fact there is nowhere to dry your clothes, and you can't exactly take your clothes off because you are in the cold. So May is in some serious trouble, which she absolutely knows she is, because she does go after Kento for bringing her here. And then we get the time jump scene back in time where we get the meeting, or at least the backstory on May and Kento's relationship. So I don't want to do the whole backstory on this. Listen, basically Kento is doing an art exhibit because he's an artist, and the person in charge of this gallery is kind of trying to tell him to put himself out there more, show that the artist has emotions, because they want to sell this art to these rich people, and they don't just buy the art, they buy the artist. So he needs to impress them a lot. So he's kind of feeling a bit under pressure for this to happen, because he needs this art exhibit to be a success. His mother comes for some support and tells him his father's on the way to see his exhibits. Kento doesn't really seem, he is bothered, but you can kind of see that he's not really thinking his father's going to get there in time. I think he's done this before, and he's just kind of unhappy with the exhibit and his life. Well, I wouldn't say his life, but I'd say he wanted to do something better. He kind of feels like he's selling out, and you can kind of get that because he is an artist, and if you've ever met an artist, you know what they're kind of like. They do kind of think of themselves as these, let's not go into that. Again, if you know an artist, you know what they're like. I'm just going to say that. So Kento goes outside, tells his mum, there's drinks and food there if she's hungry or thirsty. He heads outside, takes a picture of the art gallery's poster, but somebody walks in front of it. It turns out to be May. So this is how they met. So she's kind of annoyed at Kento for taking a picture of her, but Kento tells her, I'm not taking a picture of you, I'm taking a picture of the poster for the gallery. They have a little chat with each other, and Kento, likes her, so he asks her out. Takes her to some secret wine place. They have a drink together, whiskey, Japanese whiskey, and she talks to him about his life. He explains that he wanted a bit more out of his life. He doesn't want to sell out, basically. He takes her back to his place where he shows off some art, and she tries to give a bit of comfort and tries to tell him the art museum doesn't really matter, but you should go back because a lot of people are there for you. Long story short, they pretty much went out with each other because Kento needed somebody who challenged him, and she was that person. And I think she kind of liked him because he has confidence. And there you go. I don't want to go into the full detail of it. Watch the episode yourself if you want that. So back with the whole creature mountain stuff. The monster is, hunting them. And the fact that May is soaking wet and pretty much going into hypothermia at this point, they're trying to find somewhere to head so they can go get help. Kento brings up the fact that he saw something on the plane. If you remember that scene back in the last episode when he saw that glint on the mountain, he tells Shaw about it, and Shaw's kind of like, did you really see it, or is it your head playing tricks on you? So the group's kind of very wary to go follow something that only Kento saw, because this is an emergency situation. They need to get May somewhere for help soon, or she's going to be in real trouble. But Kento kind of puts his foot down and says, listen, we can't just keep walking nowhere for hours. We need to head to what I saw. So Shaw says, listen, we can't risk May, but if you believe there's something over there, you head that way, find some help for us there. We'll head this way so we can find help for May as well. So they split up on a mountain in the dark, which I kind of thought was stupid because, has Kento ever done this before, Shaw? You're just going to let him go on his own to somewhere you don't even think exists? I kind of wish there had been a bit more of a thought out plan. Not just, hey, you saw something, Kento, good luck. That kind of shouldn't have just happened like that. So they split up. Kento has this kind of fever dream moment where his dad's at the exhibit he made, and he's telling his father, I want to make you proud, are you proud of me? And he says yes, but turns out this fever dream helps him find the mysterious camp that he saw. And it turns out, yes, his father's alive, and his father survived the crash, made a building to survive in, has a radio there, so Kento gets on the line and calls for help. We then go to Monarch, which is talking to the woman at the start of the episode who found the signal, and she pretty much tells the boss of Monarch, I've just got the signal, the same signal we got before G-Day or Godzilla Day, and now they're saying, should they panic? Should they alert the world that there may be another a Titan attack? The woman in charge, I don't know her name, she's kind of like, let's hold off right now because we don't know what's going on, and we can't just start a panic. We have to, calm everything down, find out what's going on, and head in there. And Tim, the guy who's chasing the group, kind of brings up listen everybody, I know I'm the weirdo, I know I'm the guy you avoid, but we need to stop being afraid of this. We are scientists, we have got to find that signal, go there and do investigating. We can't just hide from these creatures. We have to study them, we have to protect our people and not let anybody else die. Which I kind of thought was a good scene. And I kind of like the fact they're not just making Tim out to be this crazy bad guy. I don't think he's a great guy, but I don't think he's that bad. We'll see in the future. So Monarch pretty much, agrees with him. They do have to figure out what's going on there. So they're going to send a team. Back with the group, Shaw makes a camp near the plane crash. I don't know why. Oh yeah, I know why. Because they end up walking to the blue stuff Kate saw. Because before Kento and the group split up, Kate saw this blue signal thing and she thought that was people, and so they wanted to head in that direction to stop following Kento's, mysterious building that most of the group didn't believe existed. But when they got back to the blue light signal, it turned out to be the plane crash. And the blue beams, they don't know where that came from. So Shaw makes a camp for them around the plane crash. Personally, I probably wouldn't have stayed near the plane crash. The creature is obviously in the area still. I think that was a kind of stupid idea, but they decided to stay. So whilst they're there, Kate and May get very close to each other. May is trying to keep her spirits up, and not May. Kate's trying to keep May's spirits up, and keep her fighting. But May seems to be kind of accepting that she's going to die, and she wants Kate to survive. Don't just give up your life to try to save my life. Get out and live your own life. And I kind of like that about May. She's not just saying, "Oh, give up, help me," and complaining. Because a lot of shows, you might have had May being a bit over the top, like "Don't help me" and SJW bullshit. No, she's just acting like a normal person. She doesn't want to be a hindrance. She doesn't want Kate to give up her life. She'll fight if she has to, but if the end is coming, I think Kate's pretty much just ready for it. So, sorry about that. So, Shaw figures out that the creature attacks them again, and when it attacks them, it seizes the fire that they made to keep themselves warm, and then you see the creature's power, which is to somehow suck in fire and turn it into a blue kind of fire. So this creature didn't attack them because it wants to kill them. Well, it wasn't the first target, let's just say. It seems like it only attacks the warmest thing in this area, and then sucks out all of the heat from that warm thing. Why did it attack the plane first, not the people? Because of the plane's engines. So, again, I like the story. I like, the writing in this. They didn't just say the monsters attacked the plane because it made noises. No, they gave it a reasonable and believable reason. The plane's engines have heat on it. It absorbs heat. And I like that. So Shaw finds some plane fuel, I don't know what it's called, plane fuel, and makes a plan up to kill the creature. They're going to leave some bait out, which is the Asian guy, and set on fire to him. Shaw says that's the way he'd want to go. I don't know if he wants to go out just like that, but okay. So that's the plan. Shaw's going to pour some engine fuel onto the man's body, light it up, bring in the creature, and then when the creature is feasting on the flames of the corpse, he's then going to use what's left of the jet fuel and then blow up the creature. So that was the plan, but unfortunately the creature attacks early, goes after Kate and May. Shaw kind of realizes he has to blow it up a bit too early now to save Kate and May. He does that, uses the fuel bag to shield him from the explosion, gets knocked down. The creature then goes after Shaw, but luckily a helicopter comes, lands, gets the group out of there. Creature tries to attack the helicopter, but the helicopter lifts off just in time, and the group manage to escape the creature. And we then see a blue signal coming up from what looks like the Earth, and that's what the blue stuff is. And then the helicopter lands, and before that, May's bag, which has the computer on it, the monster used its ice powers on the bag and completely froze the computer, and unfortunately that means the computer's dead and all the files are now gone. So Shaw's not exactly happy about that, kind of gets a bit pissed off in the helicopter. They land, and when they get off, they're met by Tim and Monarch. And that's how the episode ends, with Monarch capturing the group and the computer being destroyed. I don't think it was a bad episode. I just think it kind of felt a bit too much like a filler, unfortunately. Overall, it's still a 5.5 to me. I'm not giving up on this show. It wasn't a terrible episode. I'm just hoping that next week's episode is a lot better than this one. And that's the end of my review. If you like this video, I like you. Dislike this video, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think about subscribing, and if you have a comment, leave it below and I'll try to get back to it. Entertainment World Soldier, bye.